having been around for a while, like dealing with some weather situations, they're not always accurate. So with the potential there, which was real, we were watching from the golf course TV, like weather, the Weather Channel basically, and watching storm bands come in and rain, and then kind of joking with each other like it's probably not even going to rain tonight. And then I think around 11 o'clock it started to. A few of us stayed awake and really watched it. Tried to maybe sleep, and then woke up to like sheets pouring off of the roof there, and power going out, and then like the sky lit up orange. So there were 3 of us awake at the time, and the whole sky starts glowing. Ran out, saw a giant fireball, went and got everybody else up, and got dressed in our turnout gear to respond for a fire, which ended up being the gas main eruption. And when we got to that point, we were already like blocked off on the road, so we had to kind of hike in, which was, what can you really do for fire without water hose, water systems compromised, and still your bubble's only a street, like what like you were able to make it to there. And so we still, like, the gravity of the situation just kept growing so rapidly over the first few hours. Like, how big was the destruction? How many different debris flows were there? And it comes to, as it went on, we were isolated for 18 hours, our 7. So I don't know, we just kind of dealt with things as they came up the best we could. Safety was a huge thing, and not being isolated in situations like that. I mean, with all the water and mud, anytime you engaged in something, you damaged some piece of equipment somehow. So we were like 3 or 4 radios down, flashlights had gone missing, and you're just evaluating everything rapidly. Like hard, I would say pretty hard decision making, like entering creeks to get to a house, to kind of run down the broken fence to get to another house. We just really summed us up. We just got lucky. I think all of us got lucky that nobody got injured or hurt on the department side, and that we were all able to help out the best we could, because I think everybody was engaged in doing their jobs. We already knew we had kind of poor compliance, which is, on the human level of things, understandable. These people were like displaced for a long period of time because of the Thomas Fire, and if it wasn't because of that, like the air quality was so poor in the area that the greater part of Santa Barbara like left and went somewhere else. It was weird just driving the streets around. It seemed like a ghost town, and so it's understandable. But we knew all that. We had driven around the morning or the day before, or the afternoon before the rain came, and ran into people walking around when we'd already asked them to be out that day or set a timeline on it. And so, it's like, let's start searching now. We didn't know who was where or how many, so the patrol I was on, the 2 of us, took Via Mañana, which is right off of East Mountain, like right behind San Isidro Ranch. There were 4 homes on fire there. 2 or 3 of them were already pretty much destroyed at that point from the explosion and fire and the mud. So Via Mañana seemed like the logical starting point to clear a street, and 2 of us could leapfrog and clear homes rapidly. So I think the first house we found a cat, and then in the second house we found 2 burn victims that were in one of the houses that was affected, and they bailed out their 2nd floor window and made it to that house, and got a seek shelter. So we found them there, which immediately is like, okay, here we go, and how are we going to get them from here back to our engines, where our medical equipment was. So we had to carry one of them, I don't know, it was at least a quarter of a mile back there, the two of us, with their dog. But it was kind of like, in those situations, you just do what you think's appropriate. Like, I didn't know whose house we were in, so we tried to get shoes for them. They were both naked, so we tried to get clothes for them. You know, it's like you just hope it'd be okay, right? Like later. And so we got them back and gave them to Maeve, because if you're already successful, you have hopes that you're going to continue to be successful. So we wanted to get back and finish the street. Gave them to Maeve and had our brush truck, I forget where exactly they were, but had them respond back to where we were. We kind of used that. There was a drop point, 53, a park in East Mountain that was established from the Thomas Fire, so it was still labeled. So it's like a sweet spot that you're already familiar with that we just took advantage of. Like, hey, this is a good place for us to kind of work out of, and we could land a helicopter there. So I gave them to Maeve, and that's kind of how we found out we were isolated. She was unable to exit on East Valley on either end, and park was done, and we were trapped. So our next best bet was a helicopter. The brush truck came back and kind of assessed and treated the best they could, pretty limited with supplies from a brush truck. And meanwhile, we're like finding, you know, like explosion debris in the middle of streets and people's properties that wasn't affected by the mud flow. This was like crushed barbecues that had been projected X amount of feet to wherever they came to rest. So, and blast patterns and all this stuff that you don't expect to see on fences. And we finished the street and started working up a different, like Park Lane West, doing the same thing, which and then just we're just trying to get our little bubble secure, right? Like just like a structure fire, we want to do primary searches and get that box checked. So we want to clear these areas, get those boxes checked. Like if we know they're good, then they're good. I think 911 system was a little overwhelmed at that point, so we, in the middle of all that, started getting rescue calls and calls for distress, and medicals didn't stop. And so it's like, okay, how are we going to do this? And I think the first two victims that we found, they ended up getting airlifted around 7 a.m. So they were with her for about 4 hours. And then, shoot, time kind of goes sideways there. Like we got requested to respond for a broken leg into Glen Oaks, to find out that was like one of the fatality victims' husbands ended up somewhere. A neighbor had found him, gotten him to a roof, and so we tried, you know, had to cross a creek, pretty much evaluate every situation very rapidly. Crossed a creek, cleared the house that we made it to quickly. Like, you're just doing things as you progress further in. They're fairly safe on a roof at that point. Found a fence to run. Luckily saw one of the diving boards and went around the pool apparently. Got to the home. Oh, well, before all that, we actually got helicopters started flying. It just felt like a war zone, so we could hear them circling. So I remember telling Maeve, like, we need a chopper over here to airlift, to do a hoist operation off the roof. Because we had already come in on Glen Oaks and tried to, and just got up to above our waist, which as you go, and by that point you're kind of tired. We were still in our turnout gear, so everything was drenched and covered in mud and just getting really heavy. So it was like, you know, you get to your knees, up to your thighs, and then up to your waist, and you really can't go forward, but you start worrying, if I trip, you know, I'm done, right? It's like concrete at that point. So we backed back out to the creek, or to the bridge where our vehicles were, and then decided to pass through the creek up to a fence, kind of used the fence line to get to the house, cleared that, came back out, ran around the pool, got up to the roof. Luckily got the guy with the broken leg hoisted off prior to that. So those are like how Maeve's so, you know, like universally like applicable in those situations. Like she's great with helicopters and stuff like that. It's like, hey, we need this right there, here's the address, because it takes time away from us moving if we have to sit and direct too. So then once I was on the roof, we had reports that there was somebody alive in the structure below us. That guy appeared to be fine. He had his dog up there too, and some water and blankets, and yeah, it's like raining sideways this whole time. We, two of us went around the structure, found the girl sitting there, what I thought was a breezeway was like their living room, so the mud had come through the front door and taken out the back wall of their house, and we got her and moved her back up to the roof. And at that point there's 3 or 4 of us, so just kind of, or you know, you just, advantageous things happen, fortunately. So a car had come into rest in between the guest house and their house, and so we were able to use that and get on the roof pretty quickly without, you know, ladders or, right, you just got to do what you got to do. So a lot of that stuff took place, and then, you know, it's just things you don't think about, like it's so windy, and that was a Coast Guard ship coming down for them. Luckily they were able to take the other victim, the guy and his dog, all 3 of them, but the basket's like, you know, swaying 20 or 30 feet at you, and you're on a metal roof. It's like, okay, weighing your options, so you grab things, which, you know, not like smart decisions, but it's better than getting knocked off 10 feet down into mud or onto rocks on the other side. Like, it's, I don't know, kind of eerie to look back on and be like, something could have happened to me here, swimming pool, you know, and so those kind of feelings, well, they're slowing down, I guess, but yeah, like a month ago, found out had a very large swimming pool in it, and just 2 of us were in and out of that, but the steps we were using, we couldn't have been more than a foot away from that large swimming pool, and it was like not there, you know, it's just covered up. So yeah, it's just luck, and I don't know, right, just can't really get your mind around it still, I guess.